And we are back. Oh my God, we are kicking off season 2. And honestly, I didn't tell this guest in our little pre talking how I had told myself one day I want to interview her. Like one day I didn't tell her this, but we're here. So welcome, Stephanie. How are
Thank you.
you?
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, Kenya. Thank you. Listen, I love to talk. You invite me anytime, okay? Anytime.
Well, okay. I just remember you said that because I have been following you. It's so funny. And we're going to focus this interview on you and on this upcoming, really, truly amazing event that, honestly, if you are a Black woman, listen to this. It will be a complete shame for you to miss this event we're going to talk about. But um, I have been following you. I went to Colombia for my 50th birthday last November. So I turned 50 November of 2022. And when I came back, I had a friend asking me questions and stuff, and she had told me she had just moved to Mexico, and she said Ajijic, Mexico. I'm like, where the heck is Ajijic? I've never even heard of this. So I'm like, are Black people in Ajijic? And so I go on this whole little search, and this interview comes up that you had done with someone who lived in Ajijic, and that's how I got clicked on to. I'm like, oh my gosh, she has a whole world on YouTube. And so ever since then, so that must have been December of 2022, because once I had to come back and settled from my trip, it was a solo trip. It was the first solo trip I did, international trip by myself, just for me.
Wow.
And so what you do just catered so much. So before I ask questions, I'm going to read something I want the audience to hear, and I want you to hear. So I just want you to relax for a moment, and I'm going to read this out loud to you.
Okay.
All right. Stephanie Perry is a year round house sitter and the creator of House Sitter School. She helps Black women embrace ease by taking a career break, traveling long term, or moving abroad. She's helped more than 200 people start house sitting to live their travel dreams. At the age of 41, Stephanie quit her job as a hospital pharmacy technician to travel for a year using her savings, and shortly thereafter realized there were many more places she wanted to see and explore. Hence, she decided to be a nomad and travel long term, looking for the simplest path, which was house sitting. Stephanie has a robust YouTube community with over 148,000 subscribers that tune into her live and pre recorded videos regularly. In addition, she and career break coach Rashida Dow, who is not here, we were trying to get her here, but we're going to bring her back later. They are the co founders of the Exodus Summit community, which has helped over 11,000. I'm going to repeat that, has helped over 11,000 Black women take a sabbatical, move abroad, or live nomadically. Their upcoming premier virtual conference, Exodus Summit 2023, is titled Location Freedom, Financial Freedom, and Time Freedom for Black Women. It will be October 6th through the 9th of this year of 2023. It's all online and focuses on Black women planning a sabbatical, expat move, or nomadic life abroad. It will include keynote speakers such as Tabitha Brown, Dr. Joy Harden from Therapy for Black Girls, and many, many other noteworthy Black professionals and speakers. And honestly, I could go on and on, but I'm going to leave it there. Stephanie, how did it feel hearing me read all of that to you?
It feels good. I do a lot for somebody who does not like to do a lot, right? It feels good. It's wonderful to know that like an idea, and the original idea was just I'm going to take a career break. I'm going to take a gap year. I'm going to come back to work. It feels wonderful to know what that has ballooned into. Me being like, let's try things a different way. Like, let me try not working for a year as an adult, which is not done in my community. I don't know, right?
Okay.
It's not
Right.
done in our
Right.
community. Let me try things a different way. It feels nice to see what that has turned into without expecting it to turn into that in the beginning. So
I
yeah.
was gonna say, did you have any idea that this would have turned anywhere near this? Was a inkling of this like in your mind? Like, well, if I start talking to people, did you think it was gonna land here?
Not at all. I started talking to people about my career break because when I took that year, I went to Southeast Asia, Australia, a little bit of Europe, Portugal, and France, and I came back, and a few people were like, how did you do that? I felt like the right people weren't asking me how I did that, right? The Black women
Mm,
weren't the ones asking me
mm.
how I did that.
Interesting,
And so I was
interesting.
like, I'm gonna make them. I'm gonna make them. I started my YouTube channel a couple years later, probably more than a couple, 2 or 3, 4
Mm,
years later,
mm.
because I felt like the right people weren't asking me how to do it, and I was gonna create a place for me to give them the information, even if they didn't want it. I had like 8
Mm.
women, literally just like 8 women in my life who I was like, "She needs to take a career break. She needs to take a career." Charmaine, right? I knew their name. So I started my YouTube channel for them so that the information would be there when they were ready for it.
Wow. And so I appreciate this so much because I do coaching, I do holistic
Mhm.
from career to wellness. I do like I do astrology. I do all kinds of spaces for women. But to your point,
Yeah,
as Black women, I have found, like, okay, I know you need this. I hear you talking about this. I know you need this stuff. But honestly, watching you and how you build your community and how transparent you are, I think that's what has made for me. I know it was like, no, I want to hear more from this person because she's not trying to sugarcoat this.
that's
At
right.
the same time, she's really giving information. Where else would I get this information
Yeah.
as a Black woman?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to it's really it's one thing to hear that career breaks are possible. Career breaks are a thing that people do. It's another thing to see a Black woman doing it
Yes.
because we don't it's different. Everything is different for us. The expectations that are placed on us are different. The demands throughout our regular day are different.
Yeah.
The blowback, the responses we're going to get from people are different. And
Yes.
so it's really good to see Black women doing it. I knew Black women who were traveling a lot, but
Hmm.
not necessarily taking career breaks at the time.
Mm.
Um, and I think so. You read that we have a community of 11,000 women who are in the process, right? Who are planning. Some were out in the world already. Some have taken a career break. Some have moved abroad. Others are in the planning process.
Mm.
Um, it's wonderful to know that they are going to have someone a few steps ahead of them giving them some information, but also some encouragement and letting them know that, no, you're right. You're right. If you think you need a break, you need a break, right?
Yes.
If you think you
Yes.
want to live in another country, you should live in another country. We're not
Mm.
here to explain to you why you're wrong and why you're, missing out
Right.
and what's so dangerous and what's so wrong about it. We're here to encourage you. I'm really glad to know that they have um, some some examples, right? Some people that you can look at. It's really different when you have a Black woman who's doing the thing.
Absolutely. I mean, you've inspired me. There's no way I would have thought about how I've been thinking. I went to Merida, Mexico. That was because of Stephanie Perry's YouTube and the Exodus, Summit community, because I'm a part of that community as well. And I don't plan to live abroad full time, but this is the other cool thing is you talk about all the varieties. And
That's
so
right.
you're seeing women doing it full time, you're seeing women doing it part time, you're seeing women just needing a minute, just exploring, scouting. And what's on top of this, and we'll have this in the show notes so you guys can make sure you follow and become a subscriber for her for both areas because it's Exodus Summit has its space and then Stephanie has her own YouTube. But you also really share the hows. And I think that's what kind of, it's like, oh yeah, that'd be nice. That sounds
Mhm.
good. But
But
how? And
it's
you
not
don't
gonna work
sugarcoat
for
it.
me.
You talk about yeah, you talk
Mhm.
about your own journey and like, I don't feel good today, or this sucks, or just very honest. And I think it's important for us not to always have IG reels
That's right.
seeing, life happening, yeah, in other spaces. So I love it. So
That's right.
we're gonna spend
We
some
have to
time talking about the summit, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say we have to share the good and the bad because if you only share the good and then somebody like you said you went to Merida because of me, you did not. Okay, you didn't go to Merida because of me because I told you it was too hot. I told everybody it's too hot, but you went to Merida because of women in the community. If nobody had told you the
Yeah.
bad side of Merida, that 115 degrees in the summertime is pretty regular, then you would get there and be like, oh, something's wrong with me. right? I don't like it and there's something wrong with me, instead of I was prepared, people told me the bad stuff, they've told me the good stuff, and it's the way it is. It's not my fault that I don't like it, or it's not my fault that it doesn't fit my needs. So we share
Right.
the good, we share the bad, so that you know that it's not you. Some places aren't going to fit for everybody. That's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and you did share that Merida was 3,000,000 degrees. And it's funny, I went to Merida in February, so that and I made sure that I actually went during that time because I was learning about that, so
Good
I love it.
choice. Good choice.
So so I wanna talk a little bit more specifically about you, and I wanna talk a little bit pre-40s because it was 40s, it was you in your 40s that you really stepped into this space, and this is why I do the podcast, to show people that, it's not all about our 20s and our 30s, and, it's honestly, I'm meeting more women, their 50s, their 60s, where they're really finding out more of who they are and being willing to step in themselves. So, how do you believe that this is what has allowed you to find your voice, or had you found your voice prior to living this lifestyle?
I had found a voice. It was just not a positive voice. It was not a happy voice. I had a voice in my 30s, and it was sad and
Mm,
regret filled.
mm,
My I had to reinvent my voice, or I had to find a different voice, right?
mm,
In
mhm,
my 30s, I had a lot to say, but it wasn't good. I wasn't happy, and my
mm,
life, I felt out of not under my control. I
mm,
felt I was wrong, but I felt like the things that I didn't have in my life that I wanted were beyond my control, and that I was just going to have to deal with it, suck it up,
mm,
and maybe at 65, some things would take a turn for me. My 30s were not the voice that I had in my 30s was not a voice that was going to carry me to a life of my dreams. It was just going to
mhm,
carry me to even more regret, like a snowball of regret and um, don't haves
mm,
and sadness and feeling no control, no agency.
yeah. No, listen, I think if more of us are honest, my 30s, for me, my 30s were my by far, I hate to say worst decade, but the 30s was really hard for me, really, really hard. And it was also my 40s that, I mean, I didn't move abroad. I didn't nomad travel at that point and house sit and do all of those things. But there is something that happens, I think, in our 40s that starts, it's like, okay, you're going to sit here and be this sad, disconnected, or are you going to like shift gears? What for you do you think, was it that 1 year that was it shifted the voice, or was there something more that happened to get you out of that?
I think a
Oh,
few things happened. First, I saw my parents retire. My dad got to retire pretty young. He retired in his mid 50s. But I saw my mom retire in her 60s. And I saw that I saw what it was like to try to live your dreams in a 60 something and 70 something year
mm,
old body. And I thought
mm,
maybe I can try to do that a little sooner. Maybe I need to snap out of this and stop putting things off for 65 and 70 and start doing some things now. So that was
mm,
a change. And then
mm,
just traveling in general. Traveling has always been an eye opener. And eventually traveling got into me, right? I'd always traveled. My family loved to travel, and I'd done some solo trips. But in my 40s, a couple, or late 30s, a couple of trips that I took really helped me form up a new vision for my life. Help me understand that the way we live in the United States isn't the only way, right? With work being the center
difficult.
of your life, without really any time or focus on the personal relationships that are really going to feed you. Those personal relationships really can help you thrive. I saw other people in other parts of the world thriving in their relationships within their families and their friend groups, and we don't do that in the United States. And so some
Right.
travel helped me start to reformulate things,
Mm.
a new picture, a new vision, some clarity.
Yes, yes, and I'm gonna underscore that, and I need you guys to replay what she just said, because it's so interesting living in the States, and again, I don't think it was because I've traveled a lot. Prior to doing this work, I was also a musician, or I am a musician, but I was full-time musician, and so I had opportunity to tour abroad and perform in other countries, and to witness how other cultures celebrate music and honor the arts in itself taught me so much of the limitations in this country. And I always just kind of pegged it as that, but now as I'm doing more of my own personal development and training, helping other women, and I do international retreats, and the main reason I do those retreats internationally is like, go find yourself in this other literal environment,
That's right.
because there's new information that you otherwise, just because of the culture of the states, of just the conditioning of the states, whether you go to a really nice resort in Florida or a really nice place in California, whatever, these places where the weather are really nice, it's still different. And so I think that's the other reason why I love your community, because you're really also helping people understand the reality of what we're living here in the United States.
That's right.
Yeah, which is really powerful and has taught me a lot, a
Mhm.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The culture is different and we get to be different. We get to take off some of the barriers or the protections that we have to walk around with as Black women in the United States. You get to take them off and you get to see parts of you. It's like I say, take off your cape, right? When you take off your cape, you find out that there's wings back there. You don't
Mm,
know because they're covered up in this cape. They're covered up in the cape of Black women do all the work. Black women are the workhorses of society, of our family, of our churches, of our communities. And when you take that cape off, you find out that there's wings under there. So you are a different
mm,
person in a different place. The culture is different, yes, but so are you. Um,
mm,
you get to access parts of yourself that you have had to bury and had to cover up, and other people have gaslit you into thinking aren't there, right? You're not creative, you're not smart, you're not self-sufficient, or you're not whatever. Uh,
mm-hmm. The
all of this,
knots,
you're all the
all the
nuts,
knots.
everything you're not. You might be. You just don't know it yet. And a new location, a new place can help you uncover those things.
Absolutely. I love that you said take off the cape and then there's
There's
wings.
wings. There's
There's
wings.
wings. Yes, find the wings. So, speaking of wings, I want to ask one more question, and then I want to pivot us over to the summit that's coming up in a matter of weeks, I guess, like a little over a month now. So,
Yes, time is flying.
um, so before we go there, so self-care, we hear a lot, obviously, especially since the pandemic. Self-care. It's a word that unfortunately I feel is becoming really trendy, buzzy, and now we're kind of, I don't even know. I sometimes feel like we're getting numb to it to a certain degree, because I don't know. It just feels like it's just kind of there. But how do you define self-care, especially now living this type of lifestyle?
You're right that self-care doesn't mean a whole lot anymore, right?
Yeah.
Self-care, wellness, they don't mean a whole lot. Normally, nowadays, when people say them, they just mean spend some money on something, right?
Yes.
That's really what they
Yes.
mean. They don't
Yeah.
mean actually caring in for yourself.
Right.
I think that a very important step to self-care is like knowing what you want and then going after it. That to me, that's self-care. Knowing what you want for yourself and then putting yourself in the best position to get that thing, that I consider that self-care. Of course,
Mhm.
rest is a crucial part of taking good care of yourself. Of course, community is a wonderful part of taking care of yourself. But so is knowing what you actually want for your life, not what other people tell you, not what Black excellence says you have to be going after, but what do you really want for you? And then how can I put myself in the best position to get it? That's self-care, right? And then if you want to dedicate some time to other people, you can. You don't have to. You probably have done enough. You probably have done enough. But if you want to take some time after that and, add in some time for others as well, sure. But to
Yeah.
me, self-care to me is prioritizing yourself, your
Mm,
wants, your needs, your dreams, and
mm.
then getting them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, the sentiment you have, you definitely, you embody that. I think those of you who listen to Stephanie and you're watching this and you're like, yes, girl, and you're part of her community, she embodies this. This isn't, I don't, you're definitely not someone who's talking something and living a different space. You're very transparent with that. Um, But this whole idea of us reframing ourselves and actually living the life we desire is actually one of our, yes, I agree, one of the biggest ways that we execute care for ourselves and compassion. Because at that point, we're honoring soul, we're honoring our mind, we're just honoring ourselves, which is huge. You said something, and I was getting ready to pivot us to Exodus Summit, but I want to, and I think this might pivot us a little bit. You mentioned about Black excellence, and it was you that I first really heard, let's challenge this notion, let's challenge this concept. And I know to myself, because of the kind of work I do, I'm always thinking about, kind of as Black people, what things are we buying into that we're doing as a result of trying to prove ourselves,
Right.
as opposed to be ourselves.
That's right.
And so you said, you kind of said it quickly about not, feeding it or not doing the Black excellence. Can you share just a little bit more about this? Because I think you're not very many people, Stephanie, are saying this in the Black community. And so I in my podcast, I'm open. So if you can just expand a little bit on that, and then we're gonna segue to Exodus Summit. Yeah.
To me, okay, I can only speak for me. Black excellence has given a promise to us, right? Black excellence has promised us that if we go down this very narrow path, right, very narrowly prescribed path, if we go down this very narrow path, in the end, there is some reward. That reward is probably safety in America, right? And that reward is, being treated with kindness and respect. And so a lot of people have gone down that very narrow Black excellence path, have done the things, gotten the degrees, bought the homes, raised the children, committed time to church and community, have done the things, and found that there was nothing. That promise is unfulfilled. It was an empty promise. You
Mm,
can't, yeah, okay, empty promise. And so we have to decide if we're going to keep going down that path, or if we can just reject it. We can just
mm,
reject it. We can
mm,
decide that we as individual people want to live our own lives, and not the idea, the prescribed direction that
mm.
we're told we should go down. Black
Yeah.
excellence was never going to include some Black people anyway, right? Black excellence was only going to include people who could fit into the box.
Mm,
And the box on top of it, it was being shipped nowhere. Okay, it was a box going nowhere. You contorted yourself into this shipping container, into this little box called Black excellence, and you thought you got put on a cargo ship to paradise, and left you right where it left everybody else.
yeah.
And so you don't have to keep going in that way. You don't have to
Mm,
stick with it. You can reject it. You can decide that you're going to live your life your way and not focus on other people's view of you. Black excellence is all about the white gaze. It's all about
mm,
how do white people perceive me?
mm,
You don't have to care. You don't have to care,
mm.
because
Girl.
it's not going to help you anyway.
Yes.
There's no reward.
And I really, I'm gonna just let that sit there and marinate, because I know people's first kind of reaction, if it's your first time hearing kind of this reframing of Black excellence, it can be kind of like, wait, what? But you've said a word in so many ways. And it's funny, I'm raising two young Black men. One is 20, one is 17. So I guess he's 20. So he's an adult. So I'm adulting with him. But and honestly, and he is a very unique, he's always done everything since birth the way according to him. And it's always, when he was little, trying to fit him kind of, yeah, in the pathway to be in the Black excellence. We want you to be excellent in school. We want you to be excellent in sports. We want you to be excellent as a human, and he fought it all the time. Who says that? Who made that up? Who's the authority of my life? Like, and he would say this as a child. And so I was like, you know what? He's gonna be an excellent adult, because he's gonna be like, he's really on his own terms. And so I always carry that, because of relating to him. I know he doesn't do anything according to the grain, and he still doesn't do anything according to the grain. And hearing you said that, it was like, it's just so much freedom hearing that, honestly. Because constant, and to your point, where is it landing us? Where is it getting us? So I just want people to marinate on that. And what is it doing to our health, and what is it doing to
Right.
our mental health?
That's right. That's right. It's exhausting us. It's burning us out. It's giving us ulcers and heart disease and heart attacks. And yeah,
Yes.
there's no good
Yes.
outcome. There's no good outcome. We don't need it. We can reject
No.
it.
We can reject it. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm so glad we got to put that in there, that you slid it in there, because I was like, how am I going to bring that concept up? So awesome. So let's talk about Exodus Summits. All right. So I kind of previewed it in that intro, but there's a virtual conference happening, like we said, October 6th through the 9th. If you could just share with us kind of the mission, the purpose of this, why do Black women, and is it only for Black women? Maybe it's, maybe there's more to it, but just tell us a little bit more of this summit, and then we'll get into how people can tap into it.
So, a few years ago, while I was on my career break, another Black woman who I did not know was on her career break, lollygagging around the world just like me. And a third Black woman introduced us to each other. Rashida
Mm.
Dow is now my business partner, and we started sharing our career break and move abroad stories on the internet, on YouTube. And it became a business. It became a thing that the women who at first were not asking the questions, right? It became a place for y'all finally came and finally started asking us the right questions, asking the right questions to us. So Exodus Summit is a virtual conference where we bring in Black women speakers to get you closer to that thing. If it's a career
Mm.
break or a move abroad or just living nomadically, right? Bopping around from place to place, being free, using that passport that, has all the privileges, while using it while it still has some privileges.
Mm.
And so the virtual summit is a 3.5-day event, October 6th through 9, 2023, all online, where we have speakers coming in this year to help you get the tools towards your own location freedom, financial freedom, and time freedom. These are
Mm.
the things that we and women in our community have been moving towards, and things that have made a tremendous difference in our lives, right? Talking about being able to have the clarity to know what you want and care for yourself enough to get that thing. That's time freedom, right? Time freedom
Yes.
is the thing that gets you that clarity. It gets you that space to do you in your own way. So this year we have some speakers coming in to do that, right?
Yes.
There'll be, thousands of women. We've had, I think, at least 2,500 or 3,000 women at every virtual summit. So we'll
Wow.
have that again this year. And after Exodus Summit is over in October 2023, you'll see women, Black women out here doing things a new way. And so you don't want to be left. Okay. You don't want to be
No.
left. Yes,
No.
it's for Black women only. We can't stop who buys a ticket, but the summit is for Black women only.
Okay.
Um, we center Black women. We talk on things that Black women want to and need to hear. And sometimes other people, not sometimes, I'm going to cross that word out. Other people do not give Black women the space to be the center of things. Other people
Mm.
they're so used to being the center, right? Whether it's men or just other people who are not Black, just
Mm.
are not used to Black women being the center of things. And so they want to center themselves. We talked not too long ago on our YouTube channel to a 65-year-old Black woman who moved to Panama. And
Mm.
in the comments, people were like, they're moving to Panama to get men. We never said the word men in our conversation at any time. Men are
Yes.
so used to being the center of the topic of conversation. They can't understand why they're not the center of the conversation now, and they want to shift it, make sure that they are. And so
Mm.
Exodus Summit is for Black women. Some
Mhm.
of our Black women who attend Exodus Summit do have men partners, right? Do have husbands, do have boyfriends, do have spouses.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
still benefit. But that's not our fault. It's for Black women. It's for
Yes.
Black women. We love it. And some Black women have not had yet an opportunity to be in community only with Black women. It's so amazing. I'm not supposed
Yeah.
to use the word magic as in Black girl magic anymore, because there's a lot of pressure in that. But
Mm.
if it's not magic, I don't know what else to call it. There is something that happens when there's just Black women together. There is
Yes.
a community, a camaraderie, a care that we don't get
Mm.
anywhere else. And so it's also a
Mhm.
wonderful place for that to happen. Even though it's an online conference, we do still do some small group things so that y'all can meet each other and
Mhm.
become connected and maybe become Golden Girls and move together somewhere. I, I hope.
Yes, I was gonna say, I mean, you guys also have your Exodus community, like you have a Facebook community. And, for those of you, we'll have all of this again in the show notes so that you can join that community. But I know it's very difficult to sometimes have in virtual spaces.
Mhm.
You can feel connection, but this is unique, y'all. There's something different that Stephanie and Rashida have, very organically and maybe serendipitously. And that's probably why it feels so special, because y'all didn't sit down and analyze all the market research. You're like, listen, let's move forward. Women are asking about this. We know they need this, and it just has happened. So it's just a really special place. And how often are we getting literal speakers who are giving us tools, like and this is really important. I've heard you and Rashida say this. It's one thing to have someone and, oh, I'm great, and I have this thing that I've done, and you can be great too, so be great. That's one thing. It's another thing to say, okay, I'm gonna hold your hand and I'm gonna give you this, don't do this, because then you're gonna land over here. And so I think that's what I'm really appreciating about the community, that it's really giving tools. So women are literally doing the dang thing. Like, they are doing it.
That's
Fully
right.
support it.
It's amazing. Women come to Exodus Summit every year with like a hope. I say they come with a hope and a ticket, right? I bought my ticket to the summit. I have a hope for something, but maybe still a little bit of doubt, right? Maybe still some barriers or something, not barriers, but hurdles, right? That she's going to
Mhm.
have to figure out. And they leave with a plan, like, here is my plan.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It's because the Black women speakers who come into the summit every year, they want you to win, right? They come in with, here's, like, just like you said, here are some steps. Here are some steps. Here's some things to look out for. Here's some things to avoid. Here's how you start. Last year, the
Mm.
summit's theme was Move Abroad Money. And I mean, that we just had speakers come in, I think 18 different topics on how they make money, right? How do
Wow.
they make money? And each one of them showed you how to get started making money her way.
Mm.
And it'll be the same this time. How did we get location freedom? How did we get time freedom? How did we get financial freedom? And
Absolutely.
how do you tailor this to yourself, to your special situation? Your
Yeah.
situation is special, but not insurmountable,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
sure you have a special situation. Some women have children or caregivers for other people, or don't have money, right? But
Mhm.
how do we there's everything can be worked out. We work it out.
Absolutely.
We're used to it
Absolutely.
anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And y'all, I think it's so incredibly affordable. I'm going to let you share more, where people can go to register and the costs and things. But usually when we're getting these types of tools, we're going to these conferences, or different kinds of conferences. Even the online ones can be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Maybe even by the time you do all the things, spending thousands of dollars to get access to this. That's not the case
It's
with
not
this
the
summit.
case.
It is
Not
extremely accessible. So share maybe the costs and where people can go to register, or do they still have time? By the
Yes.
time we air this, this is our launching episode. So this would be the first week of September. But yeah, please share.
So exodussummit.com is where you go to get your ticket to Exodus Summit 2023. The weekend pass is $89 for 89, or no, $89 early bird weekend pass. Let me say that. The early bird weekend pass, which I believe is the last day for that is September 7th. Okay.
Oh,
So
I
you
think that's the day this is scheduled to launch. So if y'all
okay.
listen right at the day, you can
Uh-huh,
squeeze in.
that's good. Okay, so if you had your notifications turned on, or you're right, the podcast
Yes.
app gave you an alert. Good.
Yes.
I'm glad you
Yes.
came to listen. All right, $89. The price goes up to, I believe it's 149 or 129. I'm gonna go with
Okay.
129. I'm sorry. That's something I should know.
That's
And
all
then
right. That's still less than $200, y'all.
that's
That's less than $200. Yeah. Yeah.
the weekend pass gives you access to a full month of replays, because like we said, they're coming to teach. Our speakers come to teach you, right? So you get a full month of replays. With the all access pass, which is $299 going up to $349 on September 8th, I believe, 7th
Mhm.
or 8th. That all access pass gives you a full year of replays. It
Mm.
also gives you access to our keynote speaker sessions. So Kenya Virginia announced that Dr. Joy Harden Bradford from Therapy for Black Girls, Rachel Cargill, and Tabitha Brown
Yeah.
are our keynote speakers. Those sessions are for the all access pass holders, plus an extra rest session with Octavia Rahim, who is the
Oh,
author
nice.
of Paused Rest Be. She's coming in to do two rest workshops to help us build a
Mm,
rest practice into our lives.
I
The
love
first
that.
one, everyone will be able to attend. The second one, about a month later, for all access pass holders. So that, yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I
I
got the
think
prices and the dates right, but exodussummit.com is where you go to get your ticket. Join
yes.
us. Join us.
Yes. Join. Please get your ticket. I'm getting my ticket. And the thing is this is if you can't, let's say that weekend, you're like, I got this going on that weekend. I got this. I can't watch it. You have the recording. And depending on the past, you have it either a month versus a whole year to give you time to push replays, to go back to really, let this be your class. Let this be your investment that you are sitting down and studying. And just like you would do this for those of us who are parents, we would do this for our children. If we saw something that said your child is going to thrive and become more connected and be successful, we would be like, oh, let me get my money, let me do it. But there's something that we do as Black women. I see it a lot where we pause. What do I think? Well, I'm not sure. And it's like, how is this gonna hurt you? how is this gonna how is this gonna take away from you? So we'll have everything in the show notes. So you guys, it'd be hyperlinked, so you can just go straight and do it. And understand that those of you who are just listening on the podcast as opposed to watching the YouTube, which you need to be going over to YouTube, to my YouTube, which is Kenya MJ Music. When you go over there, you'll see Stephanie and I, and you'll see the spelling of Exodus. Okay, so it's different. It's not spelled. Well, it is spelled, but it's the way you guys format it. It's
Uh-huh.
it's special.
Yes, we put
Can
a
you
capital
talk about that? Because okay,
Exodus with a capital us. Okay. It's for us.
yes,
We just want you to
I
know
love
that
that.
this is for you. You're invited. Okay. We are us. We're an us. We're not going to be able to reject the things that we need to reject in this world, in our lives alone. Right? You
Mm,
can't, I'm sorry.
absolutely.
Okay. You can't walk away from these systems and things that have been in our lives for our entire lives. And we're talking generations and generations and generations back. You can't reject it alone. You
Mm,
can't walk away from it alone. Okay. You need us. We
no.
need each other. We need
Yes,
each other. We
we
need
need each
community to
other.
be able to do that. And so that's why Exodus is with a capital us.
I love that. I loved when I saw that. And I think I heard somebody say, "Oh, is it exit US?" I was like, "Oh, that could be another way to look at it,
Okay.
exit." Yeah, yeah. But I
That's
love the
right.
us and how you just, describe that. So, this has been so good, Stephanie. I knew it was. I knew it was going to be a delightful, thing. Like I said, I had told myself, and I'm really good friends with Tosh Patterson, personal friends with
Oh,
Tosh.
okay.
And she's been on the podcast. We've done some things together. And when I saw her, I think you had interviewed her at one point talking about decluttering, but then she came back and she held it down for you one Saturday. I think you were out of town, or you had her be a guest
Yeah.
to speak. And I was like, okay, Stephanie has to be then of my same. I mean, because Tosh and I love Tosh, and
Okay.
she's just a really wonderful, and she has definitely shifted her life in major ways. So I had told her, I said, "Man, it would be one." This was when I first came across your thing. I'm like, I wonder if there's a way for me to connect with Stephanie, because what she's talking about, my community, would just really eat up. And I do want to say this Exodus Summit is not just for the 40 plus. I know that this podcast is 40 plus, but the summit is for any age, correct?
Any age.
It's yeah.
Any age. We'll have some 20 somethings in there talking about, am I too old? You know how they are. Oh my gosh. I'm like, girl, please. Am I too old? Is it too late? But we have some women in their 70s and 80s moving abroad right now, right? Rashida's own mom in Merida. Oh, I wonder if you got to chat. Did you hang out with the Black women in Merida?
No, and I felt like my trip was a day. I mean, it
Okay, yeah.
was I really was just trying to feel around. There's a Merida group in Facebook, so I kind of connected a little bit amongst them. But I really, and I'm so glad you talked about the heat. I know for me, yeah, the heat beyond that, it won't. It won't work. But another person in your community who 2 people in your community who have just gone on to just really bloom, Michelle Wedderburn, is
Oh,
it
yeah.
Wedder? Yes.
Whatever. Mhm.
So now I'm like, I got to go to San Miguel. That's it. That's it. I got it. That's where I'm gonna live, based on what she has done and how she's really just really shown so many very similar to what you're speaking
That's
about
right.
and just living abroad and what that's done for her life. And then another person who I'm going to be connected by the time this airs, we should have connected by then is Dr. Catherine Bell, who also, has just made a major shift. I know she worked with Rashida and and I'm hoping to get her on the podcast as well because she's just doing some really amazing, and Michelle, look, all of y'all this just doing so many wonderful things.
I'm
So
I'm glad that you've looped yourself in, right? I'm glad that you right? So that we can
I just put myself in, let me get in
right.
here,
That's right.
but
Us with a capital
us,
S, right? That's
yes,
right. That's what you do. So I'm glad. I'm
absolutely.
glad. Yeah, I didn't know that you knew Tosh. So Tosh should have hooked us up a while ago. We got
I know.
she should
I
have hooked
know.
us up
No
quite a while.
pressure. It's like, am I just gonna make this stranger? But no, it all worked out really beautifully because another person, a part of your team, I do know also, in addition, here in Chicago, and this is how we kind of made this happen. So this has been a pleasure, a complete pleasure. This question I'm going to ask you, the last question, it's going to feel random, but it really isn't. It's mainly because as a musician, and we have a playlist that we're putting together, we're actually, once this airs, we finally are launching the playlist. So just associated with our podcast of music. And I always ask my guests, what is their theme song? What
Oh,
is a song you just kind of live by, just motivates you, keeps you feeling vibrant?
oh, that's good. So first thing that came to my mind was Bill Withers' "Lovely Day."
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I feel like
Yeah.
there's also a more hardcore song in there, but I can't think of one right now. But I'm gonna go with Bill Withers' "Lovely Day," um, because it's just a lovely day. It's so lovely to be able to wake up now as a woman in her 40s. I'm 49 and change, right? It's so lovely to
Mm,
be in my 40s and wake up and be glad to be here. I'm so happy
yeah.
to be here. That
Yeah.
wasn't the case in my 30s.
I love that.
So I'm gonna go with Bill Withers' "Lovely Day." Plus, he's from Philadelphia. I live in Delaware, Philadelphia,
Okay.
not far. Maybe that's why it's on my mind because we were just in Philly a few days ago. So I think that's a
I
good
will I will take it. No, Bill Withers is the man. No, Bill and I mean I love Bill Withers and because of so many reasons that's a whole nother episode. So I will take Lovely Day. I've actually rearranged. I did a my own version of Lovely Day that's out there. So I love Lovely Day. So I will take it. We can take
good,
it.
good, good.
All right. Well, we're going to have Stephanie, you hold tight, but we're going to end our recording. We're not doing a special bonus because this is our special bonus. Just bringing this as our first episode. We usually do a private. No, we're not doing private. We gave it all. We gave it all up because one, we want more Black women to be a part of this community. And you gave, I think, even if you are not a Black woman, there's so much food for thought that you shared that I think all of us, particularly those of us who are over our 40s or in our 40s and beyond, 50s, 60s, 70s, what have you, just a lot of food for thought and inspiration to think about how are we living our lives,
Yes, ma'am.
whether it's that we decide we're going to stay here in the States, but still, how are you living your life? Is it on your accord or is it based on, I don't know, whatever script that's been given to you? So we appreciate you a lot.
Thank you. My pleasure.
You're welcome. All right. We'll be back next week, guys. Take care.